Welcome. Come inside if you're not yet here. Thanks for putting up with our technical difficulties. We're, have our expert in Ohio. My name is Bernard Brennan. I own and run Amethyst Farm here in Amherst. I'm part of Transition Amherst. We're going to do just some quick introductions. Thank the town for the room, and then we'll come back to sort of a quick organizing schedule, some of the values, and then we'll mostly hear from what I think is a really innovative model of a joint consumer-producer local food co-op, which makes it really easy for consumers to buy, really easy for producers to sell. It's that joint cooperation of consumers and producers, which is really attractive, as well as sharing the risk. And having low overhead. And she'll tell you many more details about that. Who is just going to say quick? So these are sort of the working group people that have helped pull this together to then try to get more of a working group out of it if we choose to go forward with this. So go ahead, just introduce yourself.
So I'm Emily Stevens. I run the Saturday market in the center of Amherst. And I'm just really excited about this project and looking how I love the farmers market and love being there every Saturday, but want more opportunities to buy local products. And what do I do on Tuesday when I run out of milk? So I'm excited in looking at this model and getting input from all of you.
Cool. I'm John Gerber with the UMass Sustainable Food and Farming Program with our motto, always marketing. And I am the self-proclaimed cheerleader for this project. I just love it.
Hi, my name is John White. I've lived in Amherst for about 30 years. And I managed a large co-op in Sacramento, California, and I organized the Berkshire Co-op Market down in Great Barrington. And I've been involved with co-ops for quite some time.
I'm Jeremy Barker-Plotkin. I run Simple Gifts Farm in North Amherst. I'm also on the Ag Commission, and I'm a vendor at the Amherst Farmers Market. And we've had a lot of struggle, I think, in town with just issues of wanting to have more markets for farmers and the farmers market not necessarily being able to provide that. And I think the whole idea of trying to reach out to a larger population by having some kind of store that's open all the time, I think that could be a way to get around that.
I'm Tina Clark, and I live in North Amherst, and learned about this model when I was out doing a Transition Towns training in Worcester, Ohio, and they said, you got to come see our local store and cafe that we've created. And I was so impressed by the creativity, the high prices that producers were able to get, and they keep 90% of the sales price that they set themselves. They choose what they want to put in the store. So it gives producers a lot of control. And then cooperatively, the community has been able to create a store so that all kinds of producers and manufacturers are able to sell their goods at a lower cost and yet get more of the profit. I just want to recognize a number of people that are really helping the effort here. Leslie Cox, farm manager down at Hampshire College. Already we've started to pick his brain and get his support. Michael Doctor, who runs the Winters Farmers Market and has already started to give us a lot of good advice from all his years of experience. CISA, Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture. I don't know if we have a staff person here from CISA tonight, but Phil Corman, the executive director, is also giving us a lot of great advice. Dave Zomack, our town planner, thank you for your support. You're just, real encouragement of all things local. So, and Bernard, tell them about your farm.
I'll tell you about my farm later. This is something of I want to have dinner with all of you. My job now is to give you a brief overview of the schedule. We're going to have a little bit of some of the values that have brought us to this model. And then the highlight really will be hearing from Jessica about what they did and why it works and where they're going. Tonight is conceived of as a learning session. When she finishes, it's something between a half hour and an hour. There'll be some time for questions and answers, and then we'll also form more directed discussion groups amongst ourselves, asking the next set of questions. In a week from today, same time, same place, we will have Jessica back to answer more of those questions, to bring on some of the producers that sell at her co-op, and be asking, well, what would it take to create something exactly or similar to, like, maybe we want to adapt it? What would it take to do this in Amherst, and actually look at forming some working groups and push this further? So that's a quick overview. We'll move on. So, thanks, Tina.
So, how many of you know about Transition Amherst? We've got some members that, wow, that's great. The members of the Transition Amherst Initiating Group, would you guys stand up? Wendy and Gabor and John White and Patty and Bernard and Emily and myself. So, Transition Amherst is a group of neighbors who are working together to help our community think of all the ways that we could transition away from our dependencies, our dependence on cheap energy, our dependencies on sources of energy that are causing health damage and damage to the environment, and also transitioning away from our economic dependency on all things global. In the old days, you know, people imported, but not so much. Now we're so dependent. And how can we return to more of a resilient local economy, more local energy that we produce ourselves, higher efficiency operations in everything we do, more local food, and community well-being by knowing our neighbors so that in times of emergency, we're there for mutual help. The way that our grandparents lived, the way that people always lived until we had cheap energy. And so we're concerned about helping our community, and we know we've got a good creative one with lots of brilliant people in it, to think together, to have a conversation together about how we can move forward. And so in the fall, Transition Amherst is going to be having a launch, a big public party, the official launch of Transition Amherst, where we come together to say, well, nobody's going to bail us out. The whole world is becoming more unstable, and there's not enough money in government or anywhere to keep our lives the way they were going with cheap energy. So now we've got to really think creatively about how we can maintain a high quality of life, maybe even have a better life, by our creative activities together. So this model of a local cooperative where producers and consumers together create and revive a marketplace for local entrepreneurs of all kinds to sell their goods really struck a chord for some of the values that we care about in the transition movement and as neighbors with each other. And that is becoming more resilient and less dependent on foreign sources of oil and polluting sources of energy, becoming more resilient in food, supporting our local farmers and our local business people who are creatively providing useful products, help them make a living, try to reduce the toxins. I got a new phone, I don't know how to turn off the thing, obviously. How do we then create a local economy where we can produce more of our essentials so that as different kinds of turbulence hit, whether it's weird freak storms or economic challenges, we know that we can get a lot of what we need closer to home. So in addition, we wanted to support a real community quality of life where we are good to each other, and we want to do projects that are about collaboration. Anything you want to add? No?
Nope, you know her best. Let's
Okay.
introduce her.
So, Jessica, we're so glad to have, can she hear me?
I don't know.
Jessica, can you hear me? Oh, let's see. Oh, can you hear us, Jessica? Nope.
No, can you hear us, Jessica?
What was that?
We're going to introduce you now.
Okay.
Hi, Jessica. Just wanted to let you hear what I say about you and you can correct the lies.
Okay.
So Jessica has been the market manager of Local Roots Market and Cafe in Worcester. Am I causing this? All right. And she's an engineer by training and worked in industry and then came in her home is in the Worcester area. She lives in a farming community and has brought her skills both in technical problem solving and human relationships as part of a board of directors of consumers and producers that run and manage the co-op. So Jessica, without further ado, we'll turn it over to you.
Oh, hey, thank you. That sounded about right. So, like Tina said, I'm Jessica. I was the market manager at the Local Roots Market and Cafe, their first market manager. I'm a member of the board of directors. I was part of the steering committee to help get it started. So I've been with it since the beginning, and I'm intimately familiar with all the details. So I'm just going to go ahead and give you an overview of what we've got going on here. Bernard's going to help to deal with the technical aspect because our internet's pretty slow out here, and then we can ask some questions that you might be interested in. First, a little bit about Worcester. Since you're not familiar with the area, we are in the most rural agricultural area, part of Ohio, kind of right in the heart of it, about 60 miles south of Cleveland. In Wayne County, where we're located, it's the #1 dairy producer in the state. Worcester, the county seat, has about 26,000 people, and we're close. We're kind of set right in the middle of the largest Amish population in the country. So we're very heavily agricultural producing area. There's a lot of food that's coming out of here. However, we still have very limited options as to how to get the food that's being produced here to the consumer who wants to eat locally. So Bernard, I'm ready for the slides if you've got them.
There you go.
Okay, next slide. We still have the same situations of ways to connect people to local food that you have anywhere else. You had on-farm sales. We have a lot of farm stands out here, farmers markets, and CSAs, and all of these things are great, but none of them can really compete with the 24/7 supermarket mentality and convenience shopping that people are used to. So next slide. What we did was in 2009, a group of volunteers, all doing this on the side, decided to get together and to actually try to do something about this problem. What we wanted to do was really come up with an all-in-one solution for the entire problem of connecting producers and consumers of local foods. We knew we had to make it easier for buyers to buy, and we knew we had for it to be easy for producers to sell, because that was something, I was on the consumer side, I should tell you, that we were hearing from the producers is that they were also having the same problems that the consumers were having. It just was not, there were no convenient ways for producers to get products to market. You know, that they could grow more, but they couldn't grow more and spend more time at farmers markets. We knew we also had to work with the public because people don't know how to cook anymore. People don't know how to eat in season. So that was an aspect we had to tackle as well. And we also wanted this to be a very community-based, community-driven organization. Okay, next slide. I'll just jump through this a little bit. This was just our original steering committee. My note here is these were volunteers, very diverse set of skills. We have everything here from full-time farmers, professors, librarians, graphic design artists, and architecture, electrician, you know, a bank president. We had the whole gamut covered for the people who were willing to donate time to help on this. Next slide, please. This is our mission that we came up with to establish a year-round marketplace for the purpose of connecting consumers and producers of locally grown food and other agricultural products. Our goals are to encourage healthy eating, expand local economic development, promote community involvement, and sustainable living. So as you can see, we were going at it from every angle. Next slide. This is what really, I think, made us different, because after we came up with the mission, we really started to look at this like a business of how is this going to function? How is this going to be a self-sustaining, ongoing entity in the community? And in order to do that, we really threw out the rules. We looked at some different business models that were out there, and we couldn't find anything that fit exactly what we wanted to do in order to emulate it. So we decided we were just going to go at it at our own, and we dreamt up this concept. What it really is, what makes us different is we have a focus on local, which for us, local is all Ohio products, since we're kind of in the middle. You don't find things like tofu at Local Roots. We're not an organic food market. We're not a natural food market. We don't have supplements, just things that are grown or produced locally. We are a producers only market, so there's no middlemen, no brokers, no reselling. We do that because it keeps the connection back to the farms, and it also keeps prices low since there's no markup in between. We don't ask that our producers all be certified organic. A lot of them do choose to be, and many operate with the organic practices, but aren't necessarily certified. But we do ask they disclose how they grow their products to the customers. And our whole business model is based on keeping costs low. And so in order to do that, we ask that all the producers take a part of the risk on by selling on consignment. They bring their product in, and if it sells, they get paid. If it doesn't, that product is still theirs. We operate with a mostly volunteer staff. We do a lot to encourage volunteerism, and producers all set their own price for those products that are in the store. In order to do this, we really felt that the best business structure for ourselves was to become a producer-consumer cooperative, and so that's how we were incorporated. Okay, that was just a little bit of a brief overview of the business. But any business, no matter how low risk, no matter with what you can do with volunteer, you still need money. So after we had the idea dreamt up of how it was going to work, we went to a couple different entities looking for some help to get started. First was our county commissioners, because the building that we're housed in now is owned by the county and had been sitting empty for several years. And so we went to them and said, hey, we have this idea. We think it would work. We think it'll help the community. However, we don't have enough money to pay you rent and do all the maintenance and fixing up and start up that we needed to do. So they actually gave us the building for 2 years rent-free in lieu of the upgrades that we were going to have to do to the building in order to make it usable for our purposes. We did apply for a grant to the Ohio Department of Agriculture for specialty crops, which was about $60,000 for equipment and operating expenses and supplies. And then after we felt that we had those things lined up, we took the idea out to the public. We had our first public meeting on May 4th, and I'll tell you, we met each other and started working on this project on January 30th. So you're only looking at a couple months in there before we went back out to the public and presented the idea, and people were so excited about it. They were saying, where do I sign up? And through our membership, we started raising funds. And as you can see, we offer member loans, which were $50 a year, lifetime, which was $1,000 for a lifetime membership, and then member loans, which ranged anywhere between $500 and $5,000. So we raised about $22,000 through that. And I mean, these were, mostly $50 memberships. So a bunch of people taking a small piece. We looked for donations from everywhere we can get it. We went to auctions, we went dumpster diving, we brought in all of our equipment and supplies for the least amount of money possible, and we did it all again with volunteers. So through our entire startup phase, we had no employee expenses. Couple pictures here, next slide, because I feel that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Oh, you can go back one, Bernard. This was the building as it was when we found it, or when we started to move in, and it had been abandoned for a couple of years and had just been sitting empty right in downtown Worcester. Really was an eyesore, so they were happy to have somebody move in. Next slide. Just a bunch of things needed to be done before we could even start in, just to even get started. Next one. Here's some of our board members cleaning and painting and sprucing things up. Okay, next one. Our goal really was to be open so that we could tie into the already established farmers market season in Worcester. The farmers market closed at the end of October, and we were pushing and pushing and pushing to try to be open by then. We ran into problems with grant funding didn't come through, and this and that and the other. And so we really thought we were going to miss our golden opportunity there. When it came down to it, though, we didn't want to do it, so we came up with a real quick plan B. We decided to be an indoor farmers market, and we would just run as that so that we could tie on to the end of the outdoor farmers market and let people get a taste of what local foods would be. Okay, go ahead and you can just flip through this, Bernard. There's just some pictures of our farmers market. Just a normal indoor thing going on. We had a whole bunch of different vendors. The nice part of it was, though, which it ended up be a blessing in disguise that we ended up doing the farmers market, because it gave people a chance to see what sort of products would be available when we did open, and it also gave the producers a chance to see that the consumers really were going to come out and support this. We ran right up to the weekend before Christmas, and did a ton of Christmas sales and arts and crafts, you know, syrup and honey and, you know, goat's milk soap. People got all sorts of stuff like that for Christmas. And it was really a bonus for us. We did 7 markets and sold close to $40,000 of products during that time. And it was just, it was really fantastic. At that point then, we closed down for 6 weeks to do renovation to the building so we could open with our retail food establishment license. And I'll tell you, just so you know, if you're not familiar with the retail food establishment, we operate under the same rules that Kroger or, you know, Walmart, I don't know what grocery stores you have out there operate with. So, so we have to make sure that we maintain the same sort of building qualities and licensing and all of those things that any sort of grocery store would, even though that we're a very small farmers market-like entity. So here's just some pictures of what we had to do to the building to get open. Go ahead and flip down. These are some of our board members tearing down the walls. We ran into some problems and had to jackhammer up a good portion of the floor. This picture of my mom jackhammering. We found a secret cavern underneath the building and had to call in the Historical Society. Go ahead and flip down.
Don't go away.
All right, here's just some more pictures of volunteers fixing up our displays. You guys get the point. We did it all with volunteers. We really say it was a community effort. One person even described it. It was like a Amish-style barn raising, just the way that the community came out. It was like, you know, ants running all over, fixing things up. And now Bernard's got some pictures up of what we looked like when we first opened. We rushed, got ready to open. We opened on January 30th of 2010, almost exactly 1 year to the day of when we first met and started planning this project. We got open, we did the renovation even with all those problems in 6 weeks, and it was open just in time for a blizzard to run through and shut down most of the town, but we were still there. We were open. Okay, so that brings us to what you would see today at Local Roots. From those beginning days, we were open just Saturday because, again, we were all volunteers at that point in time. We were able, when I was able to come on as our first market manager, we moved to first, you know, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now we're up to a 6-day schedule. We operate 6 days a week with 1 full-time employee, 1 part-time employee, and an army of volunteers. That's how we do most of our work around there. In June 2011, we opened our cafe. That was with an additional grant that we had got from the Ohio Department of Agriculture. We were able to do the renovations in the fall of 2010. And our grant was accompanied with the Local Food Hero Award for Ohio that year. Our membership has grown from our original 12 members to over 850 at this point in time. About a quarter of those are producers. So 3/4 of those are consumer members that just support the initiative. Our weekly sales go about $10,000 a week, give or take. And to date, we are actually approaching any week now our $1 million mark of $1 million in sales. Now, remind you, in sales, because 90% of that goes back to the producer. So we really look at it as a success for all the money that we've been able to keep in our community, circulating to family farms, small producers, entrepreneurs, small businesses, the whole deal with that. We accept the Ohio Direction SNAP EBT card for low-income folks. We offer a variety of classes, and we really do a lot of community activities. Okay. Go ahead and flip through. These are some pictures of the market as you see today. Put some pictures in there because, you know, I want people to realize that we are like a little tiny grocery store, except for everything there is actually coming directly from local farms and small producers. The pictures that Bernard has up right now, everything that we have is on wheels because we do stick with everything is in season, all of our produce is local, which means Summer's bounty goes away in the winter, and so we have everything on wheels so we can change it out. The stores are very flexible that way. The products that you see are, in addition to being having the produce section, it's broken up by producer. So when you walk through, you don't just see one bin of tomatoes. You may see 5 bins of tomatoes, but they all be Mary's tomatoes, Marcus's tomatoes, all broken up by producer. So then the shopper is shopping actually from each individual farm and not just from a nameless pile of local. Okay, next slide. We use barcodes in order to separate. We have a barcode inventory system so we can separate that out, and we make sure that each person is getting paid then for the right products. The next one. And just because we're a small store, we can offer and we're bringing in local products, wide variety. It's not, like when in the grocery store where you have the same 20 items on the shelf all year round. We really change with the season, and it changes by the farm. Tons of different things, different tastes. Next one. We still do most of the work with volunteers. Here's some volunteers that hanging up our sign that they had built. And the next one, this is my volunteers who painted the sign, and the carrot's pointing the wrong direction, but we still appreciate all the work that they do. Okay, next picture. Here's some pictures of the food that we serve in the cafe. They're doing this with a very small kitchen right now. We're actually working on building a larger kitchen at this point in time. They're essentially cooking these delicious items with a hot plate. They do a fantastic job of using what's in season and really making it work with what they have. Next one. About a quarter of our building is for arts and crafts because we weren't able to get it licensed for food, and so we opened it up to local artisans and have a variety of products. We do a lot of agricultural byproducts like wool and different fiber products. Next one. We have a demonstration kitchen. This is one of our farms doing samples, and it allows the producers to sample out their products. It also allows the store, if we see that there's an abundance of a product or something that people don't know how to use, we'll bring in volunteers and we'll cook it up and let people sample it and hand out recipes, and it will help to move that product. Next slide. We do have a meeting room where we hold classes, everything from gardening. We also have it open for local groups to meet, like the Sustainable Energy, the Fiber Arts Guild, different groups like that use our place as a meeting area. Next one. And we have community events, like this is our annual harvest dance that we have in the fall. This is another benefit of everything being on wheels. You can move everything out and have a square dance. Next slide. Okay, so that's where we're at today. That's how we're operating. What's going on in the future is we recently broke ground on our new construction project for our full-scale processing kitchen that I mentioned earlier. This is being done with funds from the USDA Rural Development Grant. It's about $100,000 for infrastructure and equipment. It's for the cafe, but then it's also for the processing side, so that then small producers can come in and use our facility to value add foods to be able to sell in the store. So we're not talking about truckloads of products coming in like some of the larger processing kitchens, but it will allow gardeners to reduce waste. It'll allow people to make different value-added products to go into the market. We're picturing things like in the summer when we have an onslaught of corn, taking that corn in the back, freezing it, and then having it for sale in the winter in the freezing case. And we did open our second location, the next county over in Ashland, Ohio. We're calling it a Sprout. And it's basically, we're using our model and looking at cooperatives working together cooperatively. So we're doing some different behind the scenes stuff for them. This is our test case. If it works, we would look at possibly doing it in other locations as well. And the next one. This is our little diagram of, you can see what Local Roots was trying to do. It used to be that local food flowed directly from the consumer to the producer to the consumer, only through one channel. But through opening up the processing aspect, the cafe aspect. We're really trying to get local foods to flow around the economy and encourage small businesses in a lot of different ways. And the next slide. Sorry, this is just a little bit of a recap. What is different about Local Roots? We're a producer, consumer cooperative, focus on local, producers only, volunteers, and that's what we're all about. And that's we feel it's pretty exciting. So that was all that I had. Wanted to rush through it a little bit just in case we lost the internet again, but I'll stay on as long as I can. I'm happy to answer questions, and I know we'll be talking next week as well.
So while we've got Jessica, I want to give people a chance to ask. We thought first we'd gather clarifying questions. Any questions you have about the model itself and how it works. And then we're going to save our discussion of the model for after Jessica's gone. She has a newborn, and we want to let her get back to her baby. So why don't we start with any questions of clarification? And if you could come up to the front, we need you to talk right into the computer so she can hear you.
No pressure.
Yep. Talk it all about.
Do you pay each producer when you shop, or do you pay the cashier?
You pay the cashier, just like a grocery store. You go up to the main central cash register checkout. They ring up all your products. It's all taken into our database, and we pay the producers twice a month for 90% of whatever they sell. So for the customer side, we accept cash, check, credit card, the food stamp card, and then the producers can be paid either through a check or we do direct deposit for them. So we try to make it convenient on both sides.
Does that mean every tomato has to have a barcode on it?
That's a good question. The tomatoes, each bin, we're kind of like a bulk food store in that way, where each bin then has a set of barcodes with it. So the customers know when they go around, they get a bag of tomatoes and they put a barcode on it and they take it to the cash register that way. It can be a little confusing at first, but we try to have volunteers and our managers there to help when you see somebody struggling with that.
I wanted to ask about meat, milk, and eggs.
Meat, milk, and eggs?
Yes, anything that, products that basically can spoil, and whose liability and how you cover those things.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
All right, let's hope this stays. So the last, no. Oh, we lost you again.
Nope, yeah, I got it.
Okay, milk, meat, and eggs. What happens if it spoils? Who deals with liability?
The producers are ultimately the ones that are responsible for it. Actually, meat, milk, and eggs are some of the easiest ones to deal with. Produce is the hardest, and then baked goods, because when you're dealing with things that have very short shelf life. So it's ultimately the producer's responsibility, but the market manager and the volunteers do the on-site. So we're constantly turning over products, we're looking for spoilage, we're monitoring, we're calling the producers when we're running low on products or if we're seeing any problems. So we're doing a lot of that on-site stuff for them.
I'm wondering how you allocate shelf space, and whether there's particular places near the door that are more favorable and how you kind of equitably distribute that. And then a related question is, just with 170 producers, what's the range in sales? Or it seems like some of them must be real small and some of them may be more major.
Yes, that's very true. With 170 producers, some sell only in the winter, some sell only in the summer. So on an average week, I sell for about 100 different producers. We have everything from people who sell, $1,000 a week to people who sell $5 a week. And so it's kind of all over the place. The nice part is that our system is flexible enough that we can deal with each different level of producers. As far as the setup of displays and space allocations, we do that. Producers actually pay a rental fee for their space. So in order to sell with us, you have to be a member, which is $50 a year. You have to be local, meet all of our guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. And then you rent the space to bring the product in. And producers keep a static space because they like the customers to be able to go where to find them. It's just worked itself out with, who goes in what place. They're really, we try to keep it fair. We try to make sure everybody has a little bit of eye level and do some different things like that. And then they pay rent on that spot. So then they're really renting the right to display. And so the market manager, if they feel that there's a problem or they have new products, they can change it, but we really try not to because we know that producers don't like their products being moved around a lot. Does that help?
Oh, Jessica, tell them how much it costs.
Tell them
how much it costs for the rental.
For the rental, it's minimal. It basically works out for almost everybody to be about $10 a month for space rental. We charge more for freezer space and cooler space because of the electricity. But really what we see the rental for is more than just helping to pay the bills. It's also, it's a contract between the market and the producer. So the market is saying, we'll hold the spot for you as long as you promise to bring stuff to us. And then that's the same way with the producer is committing that they will bring product to help keep the market full. And so we feel that it helps both sides. The producers know when they come in, where they put their product, they know how much to bring, they know what sort of displays to bring, and they can really decorate it. They know who they're going to be next to. And so it serves a lot of different purposes for the space rental.
Hi. Two-part question. How big is the space you have today? And if you started over, what size space would you choose to have for this endeavor?
Our space right now is huge. We have an 8,500 square foot building, and it's broken up into 4 quadrants. It's really strange. There's ramps, which is why we have a meeting room and a kitchen area and the artisan area. The main market space is about 2,200 square feet. Our Ashland market is about 1,000 feet. So I would say somewhere in that range between 1,000 and 2,200 feet. The one in Worcester has room for the demonstration kitchen. We have a seating area. We have a coffee bar. There's a lot of extra space. But I would probably go on the smaller side, maybe 1,500 feet might be ideal. I like that there's room for sitting area, especially if you plan to have, like we have coffee and pastries available on site. if you plan to do something like that, a sitting area is very nice. It's full every Saturday morning of people hanging out and talking about whatever's going on and making big plans. So that's really fantastic. But if you're not planning on doing that, I would go smaller, because one thing that helps is you don't want the market to look empty. And if you plan on sticking with all local products, you know, in the winter, there's going to be a time where, you know, you don't have a whole lot more than, you know, potatoes and onions. You know, even if you have greenhouse growers and stuff, the weather just doesn't cooperate sometimes. So a smaller market's easier to manage for sure.
Hello. I'm wondering about the real estate itself, the store. Is it rented, or if it's owned, or if there's a plan on owning it, is that some sort of a cooperative, community-owned model, analogous to like a community land trust or something?
We would love to own it, but as it is right now, the county owns the building and the county is not interested in selling. So we are renters to the county at this point. We've looked into buying it, but it's just not available to us at this time. But it's a great home, and so that's why we've decided to stay there instead of pursuing other options. It's right in downtown. We have a parking lot. And now at this point, we're investing money into the infrastructure of the building. Which I should say, before we invested the money, the county is actually giving us more offset on our rent for that, so that, you know, the things that would stay with the building that we're putting into it is offsetting our rent. So that's helpful to us.
Did Worcester have a summer farmers market, and did the success of Local Roots affect the trade at the market?
We do have a successful summer farmers market that runs through June through October. Actually, everybody thinks, you know, when you're opening a local food store like this, at least we thought, like, oh, the summer's coming, it'll be our biggest time, we'll have so much sales. And really what we saw was one of our slowest months, well, our two slowest months are February and August. And really, I think more the farmers market detracts from the local food sales, because so many of our customers are farmers market customers, and they like that connection. They like to go on Saturdays and go and see the producers. What we have seen is some of the producers that sold things like meat at the farmers market have discontinued that and sell it only through Local Roots, because then they can save on having to take the generator out and the mobile license fee. We really see at our farmers market, almost like 80% of the farmers that sell at the farmers market also sell at Local Roots. And so we really see it as a partnership between the two. And we see the same customers. The customers go to the farmers market, they get to talk to everybody, they pick up all their produce and baked goods, and then they come over to us to pick up their eggs and milk and meat and cheese before they go home. And so we, from what we've heard from the farmers, that they haven't seen a decrease in sales, but they are picking up additional sales with the Local Roots customers, and especially with us being open now 6 days a week, that the customers, I mean, we have people come in and they say, oh, I wouldn't have been able to make it till Saturday without Norma's bread, and now I can just come here and get it on Tuesday. So we think that's a real benefit.
Is each producer responsible for their transportation, or is there some sort of like collaboration between producers that are near each other in delivering their products?
We have a lot of producers that collaborate for deliveries, especially because of the Amish population. So there's people who are, you know, they swap, you come this week, I'll come next week, or they pick up for their Amish neighbor and bring it in. But everybody is responsible for getting their own products to market. We don't do anything like that for them. There's been talk about setting up something more formal, but we've really allowed or relied on the producers to set that up. That's not something that the market controls or manages.
It sounds like a very efficient way of bringing costs down for the consumer, and thus expanding the market in terms of more people being able to buy into local foods. What exactly, in your opinion, is the price differential between your store and the farmers markets for produce?
Well, our markup is only, or it's not a markup, the producers set their own price. So they know when they set their price that we're going to keep 10% of whatever they sell. And so, you know, something sells outside for $3, they sell it for $3.30. A lot of the producers do that with us. I think that it's keeping the cost low for the consumer, but what it also does is because we're sending so much money back to the producer, they don't feel that pressure to lower their price. You know, if we were marking it up 40 or 50%, then they would feel a lot of pressure to then lower their price so that it would still be reasonable for the customer. But this is really allowing the producer to make as much money as possible as well. So that's what we're going for there.
Thank you very much for doing this for us. And
thank you for having me.
my question is, did you do any studies or investigation of who your customers are, like what age group and how they get to the store?
We had actually a group from the College of Worcester did a marketing study for us in one of their last semesters. That's been a big bonus of having the college in town. A group of students in their senior year went out and did a market study, who our customers were, what the dynamics were. In Worcester, it's a pretty small town, and we don't have any sort of city buses or anything, so most everybody's walking or, you know, driving down. I don't remember the specific demographics of our customer base, but I have it around. If you're interested, I could share that.
Okay, so we told Jessica we wouldn't keep her for much more than an hour. If folks are okay with this, we're going to have her back in a week with a couple of producers from Local Roots to answer more questions and talk more about the details. But we thought, Jessica, do you have any last thing you'd like to tell us before you go?
I just really appreciate you having me out, and I hope that this sparks some conversation. We got started just by people talking and getting excited about it. And that's really all it takes. I think if anything, we like to show people that it is possible to do something. And we all know that we can all recognize that there's a problem with connecting to local food. And so it's just communities like ours and yours, that's all it takes to do something about it. So thanks again, and sorry about the bad internet connection.
No, it's great. Thank you so much.